This is a little more complicated, so let's walk through it slowly. If $190, again, highlight, is invested for 10 years, the amount of interest earned is $123.50. Calculate the annual simple interest rate as a percentage. Okay, so this time, again, we've got our critical details there. Let me just zoom in a little bit. And you can see, again, three numbers, right? You will frequently get three numbers because if you come all the way back to the simple interest formula, there are four numbers. If you want to find out one of them, you need to know all of the other three. It's a little bit like trying to solve a puzzle. You've got one last piece left. If you know all the rest of them, you know where it's got to fit. Okay, so in the first case, the first question that we did just now, you get given P, R, and N. So therefore, you just substitute them in, and that gives you the final answer, which is already over on the left-hand side by itself. But look carefully at this next question that we're doing here. It says $190, 10 years, $123.50. What do each of these numbers mean? The $190 that's invested, that's the principal, right? That's the starting amount. Okay, so I'll label that P. 10 years, that's clearly got to be the number of time periods. When you have a look at this last number, it's not the interest rate. This is the amount of interest that's been earned. So in fact, this is I. So when I come back to now answer my question, again, just like I usually do, I'm going to begin by writing out the formula. So I equals P, R, N. But here, when I go ahead to do my substitution, it's going to look a little bit different, right? It's going to have I, on the left-hand side, I actually know what that number is. It's $123.50, right? I also know what the principal is. It's $190. But the interest rate, R, I don't actually know. Like, that's the question, okay? Calculate the simple interest rate as a percentage. So I can't put anything in for R. I just have to say it's R. Okay, I'll find that out in a minute. Lastly, I've got N. I do know what that is. It's 10 years. Now, have a look at this line of working. I want you to think back to when we were doing algebra. When you look at something like this, you're trying to solve for R. Try and find the value of R. All I need to do here is to rearrange and make R the subject. I want an equation that says R equals. Okay, and just before that, like that's where I'm going to finish. You can see it will help me if I do a little bit of simplification here. So you can see here on the right-hand side, I've got these three numbers multiplied together. You can multiply numbers in any order you like. So I've got the 190 and the 10. I'm going to multiply them. That gives me $1,900 times R. And then I've got this interest amount, the actual dollars over here on the left-hand side. So you can see here, if I want R by itself, all I need to do is to divide both sides by $1,900. I'm doing the same thing to both sides because it's an equation. All stays balanced out. On the right-hand side, you can see cancel, cancel. I'll be left with R by itself. That's what I want. So I'm going to say R equals. And to get the other side, I just need to evaluate this fraction that I see on the left. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now this is what my calculator is telling me. And this is my occasion to explain why, in my previous example, I said, even though we have a percentage button on our calculator, I don't really want to write my percentage as a percentage. I want to write it as a decimal. Have a look at what answer has been given to us. This number here, this is a decimal, and there's no sort of twisting and turning you can make your calculator do to hand it back to you automatically a percentage. You have to recognize this and be able to work out, well, what is that as a percentage? It's a decimal right now. How am I going to work with it? So here is my advice. This is 0.065. I'm going to multiply it by something that keeps the number the same, but adds the percentage sign on the side, okay? So here's what I'm going to multiply by. You might have seen this before in previous classes. I'm going to multiply by 100%, okay? Like if you have a number, think of a number, and if you have 100% of that number, the number hasn't changed, has it? Like multiplying by 100% doesn't actually change the value. So this guy over here hasn't mucked around with my number. It's still going to be the same thing. But now I have a percent sign in my actual expression. So I can say, well, now I'll do the 100 times that number, 100 times. And if you're really good with this, you'll know you just have to move that decimal place twice and say that's going to become 6.5. and our percent sign is hanging off on the end just like we want it to. So you can see the way that I've worked this out. I've looked carefully at the beginning and I've said, well, what actual information do I have? Don't just go substituting in blindly. Think before you write and say, okay, I know that this is the formula, but where am I going to put the values in the question, these guys? Where in the formula are they going to go? That's the key skill being assessed, not memorizing a formula, okay? Which is why it's given to you on your formula sheet. Right, so these are the simple interest calculations that you're expected to see.